Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the most thrilling, heart-stopping, and dramatic moments of your favorite daytime soap operas. Today is a truly spectacular day to unpack the explosive shifts happening in the glamorous yet cutthroat world of Los Angeles fashion. Grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let us get right into the breathtaking action that is currently unfolding. The unthinkable has finally happened within the hallowed, historically impenetrable walls of Forrester Creations. For decades, the legendary fashion house stood as an unshakable titan of the industry, a monument to the genius of Eric Forrester and the enduring legacy of his family. However, the catastrophic aftermath of Hope Logan Spencer's bitter and highly publicized departure has sent shockwaves through the very foundation of the company. The financial reports are no longer just disappointing. They are utterly disastrous. Sales have plummeted at a terrifying, unprecedented rate, leaving the executive board in a state of sheer panic. The vital, youthful demographic that once loyally flocked to the hope for the future line has completely abandoned the Forrester brand, taking their immense purchasing power directly to the newly revitalized Logan Fashion House. The bad press that Ridge Forrester had so desperately feared has materialized into a devastating reality, painting the Forrester family not as fashion pioneers, but as vindictive, out-of-touch corporate tyrants who drove away their brightest, most compassionate star. At the center of this crumbling empire sits Ridge Forrester, a man who is now violently awakening to the fatal magnitude of his own mistakes. For weeks, Ridge had stubbornly stood by his daughter, Steffy Forrester Finnegan, enabling her hostile takeover of the company's creative direction and turning a blind eye to her relentless campaign of vengeance against the Logans. He had arrogantly dismissed Brooke Logan Forrester's desperate pitch to step in as co-CEO, believing that keeping the power strictly within his immediate bloodline would protect the family legacy. Instead, his blind loyalty to Steffy has become the very architect of his own demise. Ridge is now forced to watch helplessly as the company his father built with blood, sweat, and tears hemorrhages money and prestige. The once vibrant design rooms are now suffocating under a cloud of anxiety and fear, with brilliant talents like Zen Forrester Dominguez watching their hard work rot on the shelves while the executives bicker over a sinking ship. The harsh reality of the situation is that Steffi has transformed Forrester Creations into a toxic, unlivable battlefield. Her absolute refusal to compromise, driven by a deep-seated, blinding vendetta against Hope and Brooke, has poisoned the well. The collaborative, familial spirit that once defined the fashion house has been entirely eradicated, replaced by a draconian regime of paranoia, micromanagement, and suffocating hostility. Ridge, pacing the length of the Grand CEO office, is haunted by the ghosts of the past. He can almost hear Eric's voice echoing in the silent, tense room, reminding him that a fashion house cannot survive on arrogance alone. It requires heart, inspiration, and a connection to the people. Ridge realizes, with a sickening drop in his stomach, that he has allowed his daughter to extinguish the very heart of the company. The realization hits him like a physical blow. He chose his pride over the survival of his family's legacy, and now, that legacy is turning to ash in his hands. Driven by a sheer, suffocating desperation that overrides his legendary ego, Ridge makes a decision that would have been entirely unfathomable just a few short months ago. He leaves the suffocating atmosphere of the Forrester building, stepping out into the blinding Los Angeles sun, and makes the agonizing drive across town to the sprawling, vibrant headquarters of the Logan Fashion House. The contrast between the two empires is staggering and profoundly humiliating. While Forrester Creations is drowning in cancellations and plummeting stock values, the Logan building is buzzing with an electric, unstoppable energy. It is a beacon of modern success, fueled by the limitless capital of Bill Spencer, the razor-sharp business acumen of Katie Logan, and the radiant, undeniable star power of Hope herself. Walking through the sleek, sunlit corridors of the enemy's fortress, Ridge feels the crushing weight of his failure pressing down on his chest. Every smiling employee, every bustling rack of new designs, is a glaring testament to the colossal magnitude of his miscalculation. When Ridge finally reaches the luxurious, expansive executive suite that now belongs to Hope Logan Spencer, he does not knock with the authority of a patriarch. He pushes the door open with the trembling hesitation of a defeated man. The sight that greets him is a profound visual representation of the shifting power dynamics in Los Angeles. Hope is standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the sprawling city skyline. She is no longer the sweet, accommodating, easily manipulated girl who once begged for scraps of validation and a meager relaunch date for her line. She is dressed in a sharp, immaculate power suit, radiating an aura of untouchable confidence, unshakable resolve, and absolute authority. The transformation is breathtaking and terrifying to Ridge. This is a woman who has walked through the fire of the Forrester family's cruelty and emerged as an unstoppable titan in her own right. Unable to bear the overwhelming burden of his guilt and the impending doom of his family's empire, Ridge Forrester does the unthinkable. The great, proud, perpetually arrogant dressmaker takes a trembling step forward, his voice cracking as he calls out her name. And then, in a moment that shatters the very fabric of their complicated history, Ridge swallows the last remnants of his pride and falls to his knees on the cold, polished floor of the Logan office. The physical act of kneeling is a shocking, visceral surrender. Tears, hot and unbidden, stream down his weathered face as he looks up at the woman he once helped raise, the woman he recently discarded like a pawn in a corporate chess game. He is no longer a CEO negotiating a contract. He is a broken, desperate father begging for salvation from the very person he destroyed. "Hope, please," Ridge cries, his voice a raw, agonizing whisper that echoes in the vast silence of the office. The sound of his own desperation is sickening, but he cannot stop the floodgates from opening. He confesses everything, the words tumbling out of him in a frantic, disjointed plea for mercy. He admits, with a crushing sense of shame, that Steffy has completely lost control. He reveals the dark, ugly truth that the executive board has been trying to hide from the press. Steffy's vindictive leadership has turned Forrester Creations into a toxic, radioactive battlefield. He speaks of the plummeting sales, the canceled orders, the terrified staff, and the horrifying realization that Eric Forrester's beautiful, lifelong dream is mere weeks away from total bankruptcy. Ridge begs her, his hands trembling as he reaches out, pleading with her to return to Forrester Creations. He offers her the ultimate prize, the very thing she and Brooke had fought so hard for, the position of co-CEO. He promises her absolute creative control, begging her to come back and save the legacy before it is completely erased from history. However, the woman looking down at him is not the forgiving, eternally optimistic hope of the past. The relentless cruelty she endured at the hands of Steffy, the dismissive arrogance Ridge displayed when he rejected Brooke's pitch, and the agonizing pain of having her life's work ripped away from her have fundamentally altered her DNA. Hope stands perfectly still, her posture rigid, her expression an impenetrable mask of cold, calculated indifference. She looks down at the legendary Ridge Forrester, a man who once held the power to dictate her entire future, and feels absolutely nothing but a chilling, clinical detachment. The tears staining his cheeks, the desperate tremor in his voice, none of it moves her. She has finally learned the hardest lesson of all. The Forresters only value you when they can use you, and they only apologize when they are cornered. When Hope finally speaks, her voice is eerily calm, devoid of any warmth, sympathy, or hesitation. It slices through the tense air of the office like a perfectly sharpened blade. "You are bleeding, Ridge," she says, her icy eyes locking onto his tear-filled gaze. "But you are bleeding from a wound that you and Steffy inflicted upon yourselves." She does not step back, nor does she reach out to comfort him. She stands her ground, a towering pillar of strength, as she systematically dismantles his desperate plea. She reminds him, with brutal, unflinching clarity, of the day he sat in his comfortable office and allowed Steffy to cancel her line. She reminds him of the humiliation her mother endured, the blatant disrespect, and the arrogant assumption that the Logans would simply bow their heads and accept their place at the bottom of the Forrester hierarchy. You didn't care about Eric's legacy when you were using it as a weapon to punish me. Hope continues, her words dripping with a quiet, lethal venom. You didn't care about the toxicity of the company when it was Steffy holding the knife. You only care now because the kingdom is crumbling and you realize you don't have the strength to hold up the walls. Hope's declaration is absolute, a definitive closing of the door on her past. She tells him, with a chilling sense of finality, that the impending destruction of Forrester Creations is not a tragedy. It is simply the price they must pay for their profound injustice. She refuses his offer of the co-CEO position, stating that she has no interest in ruling over the ashes of a poisoned empire when she is currently building a thriving, untouchable dynasty of her own. Unbeknownst to Ridge, the dramatic, agonizing scene playing out on the floor of the executive suite is being quietly observed by the most dangerous man in Los Angeles. Standing in the shadows near the adjoining doorway, partially obscured by the sleek architectural lines of the office, is Bill Spencer. The billionaire tycoon is leaning casually against the doorframe, his dark eyes glittering with a terrifying, predatory amusement. He has watched the entire exchange, absorbing every tear Ridge shed and every cold, calculated word Hope delivered. For Bill, this is not just a moment of vindication. It is the breathtaking climax of a decades-long war. He watches his greatest, most hated rival groveling on the floor, stripped of his dignity, his power, and his legendary arrogance, and Bill cannot help but let a slow, triumphant smile spread across his face. Bill Spencer is a man who operates on the scent of blood in the water, and right now, the ocean is turning red with the demise of Forrester Creations. He has spent weeks meticulously consolidating his family's power, summoning Wyatt back to Los Angeles, aligning with Katie, and pouring his vast, limitless resources into Hope's new vision. He knew that the Forrester family's hubris would eventually be their undoing, but witnessing it firsthand is a sweeter victory than he ever could have imagined. As Ridge continues to weep on the floor, completely oblivious to the sharks circling just feet away, Bill is already mentally finalizing his next devastating move. He is not satisfied with merely outperforming Forrester Creations in the retail market. He wants to completely obliterate them from the corporate map. The triumphant smile on Bill's face deepens into something truly sinister as he quietly prepares to launch a final, catastrophic economic death blow aimed directly at the heart of Ridge's crumbling empire. He plans to aggressively buy up their debt, poach their remaining top-tier talent, and leverage his massive media conglomerate to amplify the narrative of their spectacular downfall. The war between the Forresters and the Spencers, a conflict that has defined the landscape of Los Angeles for generations, is rapidly approaching a brutal, decisive conclusion. With Hope acting as the unstoppable, brilliant face of the new era, and Bill operating as the ruthless, calculating architect of destruction in the shadows, the fate of Forrester Creations is sealed. Ridge Forrester came to the Logan building seeking a savior, but as he kneels on the cold floor, surrounded by the ghosts of his own colossal mistakes, he does not realize that he has simply delivered himself directly to his executioners. The era of Forrester dominance is officially dead, and the reign of the Logan Spencer alliance has begun in a